Hello again, math magicians. We're going to try to finish up these notes. And so this is part 2 of solving quadratic equations using square roots. And we're going to start with E, because I believe the last problem we did was D. So here we are in E. Now this problem here is a trinomial. It has an x squared term, an x, and constants. Alright, so a little different here. So let's get everything on one side and set it equal to 0. So that'll be x squared plus 12x. And then if I add 26 to both sides, add 26, that'll be plus 36 equals 0. So because this is a trinomial, it has an x squared, a regular x, and a constant. Because it's a trinomial, I have to put everything on one side and set it equal to 0. And now I need to factor. Okay, now this is an easy trinomial. What two numbers will, if I do the little x trick, I think I have room here. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 36 and add up to 12. Well, wouldn't that be 6 and 6? Right? Because 6 times 6 is 36 and 6 plus 6 is 12. So that'll be x plus 6 times the quantity x plus 6. And you can write that. Well, then you'd get that x is going to equal -6. So you just get one root. So that one we just used the factoring method. Alright, let's try the next one. This one here has something squared and then just constants here, so we can use the new method, the square root method. So let's put it, let's see here, let's add 15 to both sides. So if we add 15 to both sides, we'll get x squared, 4x squared, sorry, equals, if I add 15, that'd be 0. Now divide both sides by 4. Divide both sides by 4, that'll still be 0. Okay, I've isolated the x squared, so I take the square root of both sides, and the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 0 is 0. So that just gives you one solution. So here I had one solution. So sometimes you get one answer, one solution. Sometimes you get two solutions. Sometimes you get no solution. Alright, letter G. Now this one's a little different. I'm going to try a little trick here. Let's divide by 6. Let's get rid of this 6. So let's divide both sides by 6. That'll leave me with x minus 4, the quantity squared. If I divide by 6, that leaves me with 7. Okay, I can use this square root trick here. Because in a way, I've isolated the squared term. So I've isolated this whole thing as being squared. So the opposite of squaring something is to take the square root. Alright, so when I take the square root of the left side, the square root of x minus 4 squared would just be x minus 4. And the square root of 7, square root of 7 is a decimal, so let's just leave it square root of 7. And then add 4 to both sides. Okay, so I just made the common mistake. The square root of 7 could be positive or negative. Because remember, when you take the square root of a number, remember, like, let's write this over here, like the square root of 9. The square root of 9, when you actually physically take the square root of 9, you could get positive 3, or you could get negative 3, right? Because 3 times 3 is 9, and negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. So the square root of 7, I have to remember, could be positive or negative. So now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So my solution is going to be x equals, if I add 4 to both sides, 4 plus the square root of 7 or 4 minus the square root of 7. Because this is either a positive square root of 7 or a negative square root of 7. So a plus square root of 7 or a minus. And I added 4 to both sides. So there's the added 4. So add 4 to a positive square root of 7, and then also add 4 to a negative square root of 7. So you get 2 solutions. All right, let's try H. Okay, so this one, you have something squared, and the opposite of squaring is take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, here on the left, the square root of x minus 1 quantity squared, the square root of x minus 1 quantity squared will just be x minus 1. And the square root of 25 could be positive or negative 5. Right? Because a positive 5 times a positive 5 is 25. And a negative 5 times a negative 5 is 25. So it could be plus or minus. And now you finish. You need to get rid of this minus 1. So you add 1 to both sides. You add 1. And so you'll get, when you add 1, you'll get 1 plus 5. Or it could be 1 minus 5. Right? Because you're adding 1. So there's the 1. And it's a plus 5 or a minus 5. This is just a weird way of writing the two answers, a positive 5 and a negative 5. And then you can tidy this up. What is 1 plus 5? Well, 1 plus 5 is 6. And what's 1 minus 5? Negative 4. So you get 2 solutions. And you can test them. All right, let's test them. Take 6. 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 squared is 25. And then try negative 4. Negative 4 minus 1. Negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Square that. Negative 5 times negative 5, 25. So they both work. Alright, we have 2 more problems to go. So I'll continue in the next video.